Often listen to is a song called Drunk Kid Catholic. Have you ever heard it?
Mm.
You never heard that tune before?
Yeah, actually, funny enough, that was my wrestling name. Um,
Excellent. That's terrific. I'm hoping I can go find some grainy footage. Hey, everybody out there. Welcome back to another Friday edition of the Audiophiles. I'm Andy, that's John, and today's song is sponsored by viewer Dana X Machina, who has offered up a song for us to listen to. And having looked at it and discussed it amongst ourselves, I am familiar with this song. John is only familiar with the band. John, Bright Eyes. Do you recall? We did a video for them on them for Into the Music, I think. Um,
yes,
yes, it was J. June Stars. And
yes,
yes, and you had also said, I think, if my memory serves me correctly in that video, that you either own or have listened to Casadega, the album by them.
that's the one I've got
Yeah.
digitally.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, I can assure you that this track is not off that, as we discussed. It's actually off sort of this rarities compilation album that I'll get into a little bit later. But the song that we're gonna have you go off and listen to, or Dana is gonna have you go off and listen to, is a song called "Drunk Kid Catholic." Have you ever heard it?
Mm.
You never heard that tune before?
Yeah, actually, funny enough, that was my wrestling name. Um,
Excellent. That's terrific. I'm hoping I can go find some grainy footage of Drunk Kid Catholic doing the graps. But yeah, go off, give this a listen, come back and let Dana, myself, and everybody out there know what you made of this track by Bright Eyes.
will do.
The drunkards, the Catholics, they're all about the same. They're waiting for something, hoping to be saved. Well, I have been happy the past couple days, just thinking of the women who've taken your place.
Interesting beginning. Beautiful piano. And the way he delivers it, it's very deliberate and placed with these quite significant pauses between phrases. Has a bit of that sort of old-fashioned quality to it. I like the way he sang the word happy. That kind of, it kind of reminded me of Isaac Brock in a way. There you go. But yeah, interesting lyrics as well. Drunk kids are Catholics. They're all about the same. They're waiting for something, hoping to be saved. Yeah, very interesting. I wondered about that sort of that thin noise that came in. Was it a violin or was it a guitar? Let's just bring it back a wee bit.
The past couple days, just thinking of the women who've taken your place.
That's a guitar.
And every night I think I certainly won't ever sleep sober or alone. And then suddenly, well, it occurs to me I slept alone before you. And so I pour myself the stiffest drink my stomach can
okay, so we're kind of back to this first part. So that bit there was almost like when the drums come in, and everything came in a bit full. That those notes from before was definitely a guitar, and it's almost we talk about guitars, particularly in like post-punk, etc., being angular. Um, and this was a sort of angled guitar notes, but they seem to be coming off at diagonals, which I guess is still angular, obviously. But yeah, the whole thing had this. I'm not up on music theory, but to me it felt like a three-time waltz, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and it's all swaying and sloshing, and it had almost like a sing-along feel to it as well. And this guitar, you can say it was pretty, but you can also say it was in pain as well, and it's almost like these shrieks or cries. The whole thing, I caught words, I wrote down words. It'll be my job to decipher these scribblings and chicken scratches later. Um, but I got the impression that this was an emotional outpouring. It's obviously much more heightened than the initial part, and some keywords in there. So it gives the whole sort of, and at the end he's saying, "I'm going to lay back down again," almost like he's exhausted from the whole not only the emotional impact, but probably dealing with the emotional impact, hence the booze and the religion as some sort of coping mechanism for whatever ails him. I would suspect it'd be relationships with women. Um, but yeah, and then we were back into this again, the same thing as before. The guitar does sound nice, but it can also sound like it's in pain a little bit. Anyway, we'll see.
They're all about the same. They're waiting for something, hoping to be saved. The drunk kids, the Catholics, they're all about the same. They're waiting for something, hoping to be saved. The drunk kids, the Catholics, they're all about the same. They're waiting for something, hoping to be saved.
I do like that piano.
They crawl from the oceans to pain in the caves. But I'm working all weekend, I need to get paid. They crawl from the oceans to pain in the caves. But I'm working all weekend, I need to get paid. They crawl from the oceans to pain in the caves. But I'm working all weekend, I need to get paid. They crawl from the oceans to pain in the caves. But I'm working all weekend, I need to get paid. They crawl from the oceans to pain in the caves. I need to get paid all weekend, I need to get paid.
Yeah, interesting ending as well. A different mantra this time. They crawl from the oceans to painting caves, but I'm working all weekend. I need to get paid, and he definitely needed to get paid. He emphasised that at the end quite a bit. I thought I heard some like dial-up modem, early broadband sort of noises as well, which is quite. God, not heard them in a while. It's quite funny. Yeah, this is an interesting song. Not 100% sure on that sort of final mantra as to exactly what it means, but the comparisons between, and I guess the Venn diagram, drunk kids, Catholics, there's a bit in the middle, which I suppose your man Connor would probably be slap bang in. I'm sure of it. Yeah, interesting, pretty song as well. And I like the way the music was constructed, but I did really like the piano. It sounded very sort of engaging as well in a sort of old school way. Yeah, it was nice. Okay, we need more information. And the only way to do that is go back and speak with Andy.
All right, welcome back. So, you seem sober. Let us all know what you made of Drunk Kid Catholic.
Highly functioning. Yeah, it starts off beautiful piano. Um, He sings the first couple of stanzas, somewhere around there, in a very measured style, um, really deliberate and placed. Um, yeah, so I get the first couple of lines, which are repeated a number of times in the song. The drunk kids, the Catholics, they're all about the same. They're waiting for something, hoping to be saved. Um, and the way he delivers it, it's really interesting approach for the start of a song. It's very low key, but with these significant pauses in between phrases. I didn't know if he was putting down markers or sort of saying this is a struggle to get out or whatever. I didn't really get that from his voice, but I just thought it was interesting. There's a few things that made me also thought in this piece. So then um it continues through it, and there's a bit where um the next verse he opines about the women that are taking your place, and at first there's this thing that comes in, and initially I thought it was a violin, but it is a guitar, and this sort of thin wisp of melancholy over
Hmm.
it. And then the song shifts with a few hits on the drums, and it goes into this sort of sing along waltz pattern. I was counting one, two, three, one, two, three. And the whole thing is kind of sloshing from side to side. And you can imagine much beer is spilt. Um, yeah, and as it's doing this, the piano and you've got the percussion in there. I think I think the whole sound is fuller, and I think there's another vocal. Well, there is another vocal track, but I don't know whether it's someone else or it's him
Hmm.
multi-track. I couldn't tell. There wasn't that much differential between them two, but it's almost like in a very, very at points it was almost identical. Just a fuller sound rather than hearing the difference in timing of it. Um, but on top of this, you had this guitar, and the notes were kind of crawling out. And we've spoken about this before, particularly with post-punk music, about angular guitars. But this wasn't angular, but to me, it's hard to explain, but I felt the songs were coming out, the notes, sorry, of the guitar were coming out, I would call it on the diagonal. No, I get that that's an angle as well. So, but do you know what I mean? It was like they were coming out like they were leaning and going, and it was an interesting sound to it because you could say that it's kind of almost country tinged or of origin, but not quite. But it had that sort of opining. Uh, you could also say that the guitar notes almost sounded like embodiments of pain if you were taking that tact. I mean, people say argue against it, but it just occurred to me. I wasn't sold on the idea, but it did sound a bit like anguish or pain from
Hmm.
that guitar. It's interesting. Um, Try to scribble down some notes. I got little snatchettes of but I heard him say something about every night, sober or alone, slept alone before you, pour myself stiffest drink and lay back down again. So whatever the bits I missed were probably very significant. But the whole thing of this, it seems like an outpouring of emotion. And obviously it's the musical style of this lifts it up and becomes more in your face. And then seemingly exhausted, he lays back down again. So like he's almost spent with the effort of getting whatever is off his chest. Um, and then we go back to kind of like the previous style as the guitar continues for a bit with the piano. Um, I have to say his voice sounds slightly different in this third section than the first section. It's like he's a little bit more like he's got his shit together. Just sounds a bit more confident. He's repeating his drunk kids phrase again like a mantra. And other voices join in with the same words, but it's more stylized this time. There were some of that were sort of just speaking it. It always sounded like a guy was in a phone box. And there's a female voice as well. And then I get a little, I think it sounded like dial tones or something. Um, and then around the 220 mark, we get another shift. And this time we have choir of voices repeating a different mantra, which I got because he kindly repeated for me many times. Um, they crawl from the oceans to paint in the caves, but I'm working all weekend. I need to get paid. These interesting lines. I'm not quite sure that I mean, to me, this significant, they crawl from the oceans is like the beginnings of life, obviously, going from the sea to the land.
Hmm.
And then just painting caves. I mean, I think that's been established at the first point in history
Hmm.
where people are doing something that isn't anything to do with survival, really. It's the first beginnings of artistic activity. So he's talking about how things have developed through to we get, I guess, what you could call beginning of culture. And then he's saying, but I'm working all weekend. I need to get paid. So that's where we've ended up from there to there. I'm,
Hmm.
I'm guessing anyway. So this is all done to a backing track of beats that sound like they are wrapped in cellophane and then bounced off a couple of dustbins. It's a very interesting that sort of altered, muffled sound. Um, and there are more telephonic tones, and I'm brings it to mind broadband dial-up, the old modem noises that's God, I haven't heard in a long time. And then after about 20 seconds, the guitar and the piano rejoin and they carry on. And as the final notes die, he does declare he needs to get paid with some emphasis. And
Hmm.
I really hope he did. Um, so yeah, this was an interesting track. I suspect that it's Connor, isn't it? I can't remember his surname. It's Connor. I suspect that he has been both. Um, a drunk kid and a Catholic. And I think if he could make it into a portmanteau that would actually sell the song, he would. So it would be
Yeah.
drink Catholicism or drunkidodic, I think was a quite a nice one I come up with. But anyway, um, it's funny to me. There's a few things here about even the title. So it's funny to me that the word, when it's in lowercase as an adjective, Catholic means a wide variety, or universal, or all embracing, as in Catholic tastes. But when you add Roman and a capital C, not so much. No.
Yeah.
Um, and, and also the order of the words interest me as well in the title. Um, Drunk, kid, Catholic. Is he going for a Venn diagram effect
Mm.
and saying he's sitting in the middle of the so because it would be drunk Catholic kid normally,
Yeah.
Um, so the comparison, I believe, that he's making, I'm not sure on this, but between religion and alcohol as a crutch is interesting. I feel without expert knowledge of the latter of these two, the former of these two religion, the Catholic religion, that but both of them are limiting the freedoms you experience in life, but they're also an easy coping mechanism to turn to when shit does get real.
Hmm.
Religion has never been a big thing in my life or the people around me. So it kind of, from my perspective, it doesn't feel so important and it kind of feels like low hanging fruit as a subject to take on. It's quite easy, but I get it from other people's point of view. It can be a much more important thing in their life, and so it becomes an important topic. Um, Drunk kids, I do have more experience of, and some. I mean, I know some people who have been lost to the booze. Some for decades, some permanently.
Hmm.
So yeah, interesting stuff. And I believe from you telling me that he's had an issue himself with alcohol. So
Yeah.
yeah,
That he's actually in the throes of right now because they were supposed to go on a tour. And I think that tour has been canceled because he is going through some substance issues right now that I think he's trying to correct. So,
it's a difficult one because it is an illness, and um, but it also makes you just like I mean, because like drugs as well, incredibly selfish.
yeah.
And it really takes a toll on everyone around you. And I'm family members that have suffered for years because of someone who's of that way, who I found instantly, immeasurably lovable. But then I didn't have to live with them.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly. Exactly.
um, so yeah, interesting. I thought this was, I mean, incredibly pretty song. It had that sort of musical tone that was almost sing along for bits as well. Um, I really love the piano on this. I just found that captivating and the through line and that waltz time effect
Hmm.
was really nice. I don't think I connected with this emotionally. It didn't kind of hit me, but then that's fine. And I didn't get all the words either. But it was definitely a decent song to listen to, and I enjoyed it.
Oh, well, I'm glad to hear it. I'm sure Dana is out there as well. But yeah, let's get into a little bit about Bright Eyes and more just about this album, this very interesting kind of album. Because as we've stated earlier, we did cover them before and a little bit of their backstory and their biography on our Jejun Stars video on Into the Music, which you can please go check out. Perhaps I'll link it in the description field. So, anyway, Bright Eyes. They are an American indie rock band founded by singer, songwriter, and guitarist Connor Oberst. So there you are with the surname. It consists of Oberst, multi-instrumentalist, and producer Mike Mogis, arranger, composer, and trumpet and piano player Nate Walcott, and a rotating lineup of collaborators drawn primarily from the Omaha indie music scene there in Nebraska, which we've talked about, with some of the other sister
Yeah.
or brother bands that are all made up of that Saddle Creek Records that I'll touch on here in a second, but I believe was started by Oberst. Um, so yeah, between 1998 and 2011, the band's albums were released through the aforementioned Saddle Creek Records, a Nebraska-based label founded by Justin Oberst, Connor's brother, and Mike Mogis. In January 2020, the band announced their return, having signed with Dead Oceans Records. Their most recent album, Five Dice, All Threes, was released in September of 2024. So just last month. Thus, the tour that they're about to embark on that has now been postponed, sadly. In total, they've released 11 studio albums. Noise Floor, parentheses, Rarities, 1998 through 2005, is a compilation of previously recorded but unreleased or hard to find songs by Bright Eyes. The compilation album collects selected Bright Eye singles, one-offs, unreleased tracks, collaborations, and covers recorded between those years, 1998 and 2005. It features this track we listened to today, Drunk Kid Catholic. The compilation was released on CD and vinyl in Europe on October 9th of 2006 and in the US on October 24th, 2006, again on Saddle Creek Records. The album was reissued by Dead Oceans Records, the album that they're now signed with, alongside a 7-track companion EP on June 6th of 2023. So Noise Floor, Rarities 98 through 2005, received mostly positive reviews from contemporary music critics. At Metacritic, which assigns a normalized rating out of 100 to reviews from mainstream critics, the album received an average of score of 67 based on 19 reviews, which indicates general favorable reviews. Meanwhile, over at Sputnik Music, another aggregate site that bases its scores on user feedback rather than critical review, the album garnered a 3.6 out of 5 rating. Writing his review for the album for Channel Punching Bag Pitchfork, Brian Howe, there we go. Brian Howe noted, Noise Floor's B-sides, singles, compilation tracks, and sundry rarities span a period of extended transition for Oberst. While the album isn't arranged chronologically, listening to it as such reveals the series of intuitive leaps between lo-fi bedroom folk and the emphasized monotonous gloom and cacophonous samples to comparatively laid-back country biased toward the majestic arrangements and electronic beats. In her
I
review,
think, sorry,
go ahead.
sorry, Andy, just to say that when you get one of these sort of compilations, which is B-sides, rarities, etc., it can be a real mixed bag. I mean,
Yeah,
even for the fans, and that's you get where you tend to get is you tend to get some real gems in there, and
yeah.
then some other stuff which you can take or leave. And that's the same with all bands.
Yes, yes. I totally agree with you. One of these reviewers, I think, sums it up nicely toward the end of my notes here, but you're exactly right. I mean, that's the purpose.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
wasn't intended to be released. You're lucky that you're getting anything if you're a true fan, right?
yeah,
And if
yeah,
and if you go in with expectations that you're going to love everything, that's delusional. The guy that you, or the person or the band that you look up to that created the music made an active decision not to release this on a mainstream release. So, of course, it's not going to fit their standards and likely your own upon hearing it. So, it's like, come on, curb your enthusiasm, folks. Totally agree with you. I think the reviewers, some of these reviewers and critics should have taken that into consideration as well.
yeah.
Some of the stuff was kind of harsh that they had said, and it was like, dude, do you even understand what this is, what you're listening to? Because it's pretty self-explanatory if you think about it. just a little bit. In her review for DIY, Ellie Rose notes of this track, Drunk Kid Catholic shows off Connor's heartfelt vocals rather nicely and described it as a bright spot on a collection she scored only 2 stars out of 5. I wonder why. Because she went in there expecting everything to be great, probably, or to be the next Bright Eyes album. All Music Stephen Thomas Erlewine noted in his review of the album, Noise Floor captures a less self-conscious Oberst, which is often a better Oberst. Not that not that this will change any doubters' minds. His voice and lyrics remain an acquired taste, especially when paired to winding folk tunes. But this actually showcases a greater musical and emotional range than I'm wide awake, even if it still can succumb to solipsism a lot or a little too often. So yeah, I guess he's underscoring Conor Oberst is a bit of a so much of his stuff, especially early on, was so written about the self. It wasn't until later that he started to write about things that affected society and geopolitics and stuff like that. For a long time, it was very emo-y, which is very self-centered, really. In its own way.
Yeah, you get that though with some people, and it's really lucky if people take to it, because you do write about what you know,
Yeah,
and it's rare you get someone like Elliot Smith, that's just universally loved, and he very much, you know. But anyway, yeah,
exactly, exactly. So over at Billboard, Michael D. Ayers wrote, on display, here's a mix of the sparse lo-fi material that characterized Oberst's early years and the more produced country folk sound that dominated 2005's I'm Wide Awake, It's Morning. B-sides are usually left off albums for good reason, but Noise Floor isn't a compilation of bargain bin leftovers. Whether musing metaphorically about lost allowances on spent on rainy days, or pining away during motion sickness, Oberst's lyrics are still as poignant and poetic as on his official albums. I think Dave Heaton of Pop Matter summed this collection's album up best when he wrote, musically, Noise Floors reflects those rebellious leanings of Oberst, that time's up, let's mess around direction, mostly because it's a collection of obscurities, which embody his raw artistic impulses. These are rarities, sketches, songs left behind, one-off collaborations, and from the heart tributes to musical heroes. Heaton would then go on to add, Noise Floor shows both the growth of his melodic lyrical talents and his playful messiness of his music. Witness Drunk Kid Catholic, coming after Trees Get Wheeled Away. The latter has a streak of a protest song in the 1960s tradition to it, one about religion, hate, and freedom. The former song tackles similar ideas in a more ramshackle way, as a would-be piano ballad breaks into a ragged, punkish sing-along, based on the lyric, the drunk kids and the Catholics, they're all about the same. They're waiting for something, hoping to be saved. That pairing of 2 songs says much about Bright Eyes, past and present. The way he's ever balancing studious songcraft and DIY punk spirit. The way he places societal observations in a personal context. It also says a lot about Noise Floor. It's a demonstration of the fact that these songs are one level of quality down from his proper albums in terms of completeness. And I think that's fair. So, lyrics. The drunk kids, the Catholics, they're all about the same. They're waiting for something, hoping to be saved. Well, I have been happy the past couple days, just thinking of the women who've taken your place. And every night I think I certainly won't ever sleep sober or alone. And then suddenly it occurs to me I've slept alone before you. And so I pour myself the stiffest drink to match the stiffest drink my stomach can stand and convince myself to lay back down again. I'm going to lay back down again. I'm going to lay back down again. The drunk kids, the Catholics, they're all about the same thing. They're all about the same. They're waiting for something, hoping to be saved. The drunk kids, the Catholics, they're all about the same. They're waiting for something, hoping to be saved. That repeats itself. Then it changes to, they crawl from the oceans to paint in the caves, but I'm working all weekend. I need to get paid. And that obviously repeats, as you noted, when you went over the lyrics. So yeah, this interesting little quote from the lyric site, it actually sums it up quite nicely. Everyone has their way of getting through rough times in life. Catholics fall onto their religion, drunk kids fall into their drinks. Either way, they're just trying to be saved from reality and pain. It seems that Connor took the drunk kid route. He thinks he's happy without her, but when it comes time that he's all alone, he misses her and he doesn't want to, so he drinks. Sums it up quite nicely, if you ask me. And you're right, people use to, both those things to placate some sort of void in them or some sort of temporary pain that they're going through. I think in this case, Oberst is leaning on the bottle rather than dogma. So yeah.
Yeah. Do you know if he was brought up Roman Catholic?
I know that he went to private school, which screams probably Catholic to me. I don't know though, to be completely fair.
I mean, really, the only people who would bring up Catholicism are Catholics.
Right.
Nobody
Yeah.
else would bother,
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. That and another reason why I tend to think that he probably grew up in a Catholic
Yeah.
household. And he's also got drinking issues, so he's probably able, because of his relationship with both those things, able to draw this correlation pretty easily, write about it, and connect with it because it's personal to him. So, thanks for giving this a listen, John. I really hope you enjoyed it. It sounds like you did. The pianos are amazing in this song, so I'm glad you liked it, man.
Yeah. Cool.
Awesome. Dana, thank you so much for offering this up. We both really enjoyed going over this one. So kudos to you for offering this up. We really do appreciate it. Everybody out there in the listening audience, please let us know what you thought of Bright Eyes and Drunk Kid Catholic. If it reminded you of anything, if there's other tracks by them we should check out, or just any track, please feel free to drop it down in the comments field below. We love hearing from you guys. Also, like, share, and subscribe if you'd be so inclined. It really does help us here at the channel, bringing in new people, new opinions, and new interesting ideas. So thank you so much. With all that out of the way, hopefully John and I will catch all y'all in growing numbers on the next installment of the Audio Files. We'll see you later, guys.